going on, everybody? So in today's video, it's going to be a little different from my usual content because we're finally talking about one of the most iconic horror characters ever added to Dead by Daylight, Jason Voorhees. Now this is a character people have been begging for years, and now that he's finally here, I wanted to do something special. So today, we're breaking down Jason's lore, the licensing nightmare that kept him out of the game for so long, and how strong he actually is in DBD. And of course, my honest thoughts on what needs to change to make him feel better as a character in general. Real quick, before we dive in, let me know in the comments, who's the next horror icon you want to see in Dead by Daylight? Because at this point, we already know the game is only going to get crazier once Art the Clown joins the roster. Before we get into builds and gameplay, let's start with the basics. If you don't know Jason's story, here's the simple version. The year is 1946. Elias and Pamela Voorhees have just welcomed a new baby boy into the world. Sadly, Jason was born with several disabilities, and Elias quickly abandoned the family, leaving Pamela to raise Jason all on her own. Fast forwarding to 1957, Pamela finally finds work at Camp Crystal Lake, doing whatever she can to support herself and her son. Balancing a job while caring for a disabled child is already difficult, and with no relatives to rely on, she brings Jason with her to camp every day. The other kids at camp unfortunately didn't understand Jason. They thought he was really strange because he stayed close to his mom, and this led to constant bullying that he would have to endure. One day, that bullying went too far. The kids chased Jason to the docks and pushed him in the lake, where he presumably drowned. His body was never recovered. Pamela was devastated. She blamed the camp counselors for her son's death and began taking revenge on anyone involved with the camp. Camp Crystal Lake went through years of closures and attempted reopenings, many of them tied to Pamela's actions. Finally, in 1978, the son of the original owners tried reopening the camp once again. Pamela didn't take too kindly to this, and she murdered nearly all of the camp counselors, except for one, Alice Hardy, who managed to kill Pamela in self-defense. What Alice didn't know at the time was that Jason had survived. He had been living in the woods and he'd witnessed his own mother's death. Soon after, he came back and hunted down Alice, avenging Pamela. Now that you know who Jason is and how he got to be the status that he is today, let's talk about why it took so long for him to show up in Dead by Daylight. Because the licensing issue behind this character is honestly wild. For years, the Friday the 13th franchise was stuck in a massive legal battle between Victor Miller and Sean Cunningham. They were fighting over who owned what. Child Jason, adult Jason, the mask, the name, the setting, everything was split. This lawsuit froze the entire franchise. It's the reason Friday the 13th the game couldn't update anymore, and partially why the game had unfortunately died. And it's the reason why Dead by Daylight couldn't touch Jason until recently. Once the rights finally settled, Behavior was able to make this chapter happen, and that's why Jason is only now making his debut in DBD. Now that the legal stuff is out of the way, let's talk about the real reason you clicked on this video, how Jason actually plays in Dead by Daylight. Jason comes with 3 teachable perks. His first perk, called Hex Scared to Death. After hooking 3 different survivors, this hex activates on a random totem. While you're in a chase, breaking a pallet applies up to a 13% hindered effect to survivors within 13 meters for 3 seconds. It stays active until the hex totem is cleansed or blessed. Jason's second teachable perk, called Silent Shadow, every time you break a pallet or breakable wall, you gain a token up to 13. If you get blinded or pallet stunned, you gain 1% haste per token for 13 seconds. This perk has a cooldown of 30, 25, or 20 seconds depending on the rarity, after being stunned or blinded. Rampage is Jason's final teachable perk. At the start of the trial, you gain undetectable for 11, 12, or 13 seconds. When the exit gates are powered, you gain undetectable again, this time for the rest of the match. Now, I'll be honest, I joined Dead by Daylight communities pretty late. I was hyped for Michael Myers, and I loved playing Ghostface too, but neither of them compare to Jason. Before we get into the build, let's talk about Jason's actual power, Omnipresent Evil, because this is the core of what makes him so strong. Omnipresent Evil basically lets Jason appear almost anywhere on the map by slipping into the shadows and re-emerging behind survivors. It's not quite full teleporting, but it feels like it when you're on the receiving end. Survivors will be working on a gen, hear nothing, and suddenly Jason is just there. No heartbeat, no warning, just there. It gives him insane map traversal, lets him cut off survivors mid-loop, and forces mistakes because people never know where he's going to pop out next. It's honestly one of the most oppressive powers in the game right now. Fun to use, terrifying to play against. Now that we covered his power, let's talk about the build that I chose to run. My first perk that I went with is Rampage. The early undetectable is huge for catching survivors off guard. With the free blood points we got, I pushed Jason to Prestige 9, so all of his perks are maxed out. Now, the second perk I chose to go with Thrilling Tremors. When you pick up a down survivor, all generators not being worked on get blocked. It gives you great info and slows the game down just a little bit. Perk 3 I chose to go with Enduring. This reduces the time you spend stunned by pallets, simple but effective. For perk 4, I was thinking to go with something maybe to slow down the exit gates, more gen regression, but I didn't want to just double up on perks, and I really didn't want to do the whole exit thing. So I finally chose to go with Spirit Fury. After breaking enough pallets, the next pallet that hits you instantly breaks. It pairs perfectly with the Enduring, and helps you keep momentum in chase. For Jason's add-ons, I'm running Sauna Rock, which inflicts exhausted on survivors within Killer Instinct range after a jump scare. And I'm pairing it with Nurse's Shoe, a solid combo for keeping pressure up and limiting survivor options. So, that's what Jason can bring to the table. But here's how I feel about him after actually getting to play him. Jason is strong. Honestly, a bit too strong. His power gives him amazing map traversal and lets him cut off survivors way too easily. He's fun, and with the right build, he becomes a real problem to deal with. If I could change one thing, it would be his power cooldown. Getting to use it and practically spam it is the reason why so many people are complaining about him already. I don't know what behavior was thinking, it just doesn't feel fair at times. I think adding an extra 5 to 6 seconds would make him feel more balanced without ruining the fantasy of playing Jason. It's long enough where you can't spam it like you can now, but it's not too long where you don't get your power. Overall though, he's a really well-designed killer and a great addition to the game. Jason is everything I'd hoped he'd be. He's fun, he's terrifying, and he finally feels like the slasher icon he should be. With a few tweaks, he could be a perfectly balanced killer, but even now, he's an awesome killer to play. What I love most about Jason being in Dead by Daylight is what he represents for the future of the game. This isn't just another licensed killer. This is Jason Voorhees. This is one of the biggest horror icons of all time, finally stepping into the fog. It shows that Behavior is really listening to the community. People have been asking for Jason for years, and now that he's here, and Art the Clown is right around the corner, it feels like we're entering a whole new era of Dead by Daylight. This game is getting bolder, the licenses are getting crazier, and honestly, it's exciting again. And I think that's why Jason feels so special. He's not just fun to play, he brings that classic slasher energy to DVD was built on. He fits right in with Myers, Ghostface, Leatherface, but he also brings something new. He's fast, he's oppressive, he's unpredictable, and he has that "oh god, he's right behind me" factor. That makes every chase feel like a horror film. I also think he's going to shake up the meta in a good way. For survivors are going to have to start to adapt, killers are going to have to rethink their builds, and we're probably going to see some really creative strategies come out of this chapter. Whether you love him or hate him, Jason is going to leave a mark on this game. So yeah, he's strong, he's scary, he's a little overtuned, but he's also exactly what Dead by Daylight needed right now. A killer that feels fresh, feels iconic, and brings that spark of joy back into the game. Before I wrap this up, I just want to say thank you for watching. I know this video was a little different from my usual uploads, and I really appreciate you sticking around for something bigger and more in-depth. Jason's a huge character, and I wanted to do him justice. So if you made it this far, seriously, thank you. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like or leave a comment. I love hearing your thoughts, your builds, your experiences, all of it. This community has been awesome to be a part of, and I'm excited to keep making more content like this as the game gets crazier and crazier. With all that being said, and all the information and stuff we went over today, I'm going to let the gameplay roll out from here. I'll see you guys in my next video.